is Debden. This is Debden. This is Debden.
Here, in the southwestern corner of Essex, is a place thought of by many as just part of suburban Loughton. This Debden, though, has its own tube station and is home to the Bank of England printing works. But perhaps its greatest claim to fame, literally, is the East 15 Acting School, which grew out of the work of Joan Littlewood's theatre workshop.
Hello, welcome to East 15 Acting School. We're glad you come to the open day. And why are you wearing your riding boots?
Well, it has been over a year since my open day where I was told to purchase a pair of riding boots. I've never used them and I thought I might as well use them today.
Right, well, anyway, we hope you like it here, and just to make sure, we've written a little song for you.
We're terribly house and garden here at East 15.
We wear the most amusing clothes.
Ever so very contemporary.
We're terribly house and garden.
The money that John spends
to make a place that won't disgrace ourselves and acting friends. We've even got some wonderful...
Debden, just after the war, was pretty much a greenfield site that began to be developed for people coming out of the East End. So East 15 coming to Debden was very similar to the rest of the population. So it's quite a nice one. So therefore, I think we've kept some traditions up in terms of that relationship with the audience, which is quite exciting for us. We're probably the only drama school in the country that has part of its full-time training old-time music hall. Every year, our students in the second year will do a public performance of old-time music hall, dredging up some wonderful oldie but goodies from the past, and it's hugely, hugely popular. Because it's part of the Joan Littlewood tradition, it's part of the East End tradition. So that's really quite important for us. There's an annual event called Debden Day, and we try to get out and do things within the community. Last year, I think we performed to 6,000 local school children and old age pensioners. And I think in that way, we do try to make sure that we're constantly involved with the people around us. Because it's very much of the tradition of Joan Littlewood, which was theatre only has a purpose if it relates to the world in which it's being created. And I think it's very, very important for youngsters to realise that.
Now exalting his sails to the breeze, spread God like Odysseus.
Like to a vapoury wrack as it loomed on the mist-bound ocean.
Now the king earth shaker looked and beheld him voyaging over the sea, and enraged more fiercely than ever, wagging his head in his wrath, spake thus to the spirit within him.
Yet shall I force him? I promise to suffer his fill of misfortune.
The two sort of places here and the area that surrounds it don't really correlate at all in what we do. We're basically all here for the same reason. We want to be actors, whereas around us we've got people working in shops in completely different environments. The area is very different to what we actually do here. Most people don't come from this area, they come from various parts of the country or other countries. We've got people from Austria, people from America, people from Canada, people from Wales, people from Ireland, people from Scotland, all different parts.
There are so many different environments that people have come from and different sort of cultures. I mean, like Lynn coming from Scotland and Sarah, who's over there, just come from Devon, like opposite ends of the country, and we all mix together really quite nicely, and it's a nice feel about it.
When I moved into my new house, we went and introduced ourselves to our new neighbours, and we're like, we're at the acting school, and they were like, oh, that's fantastic, yeah, we used to go and see all the shows up there, you have to let us know when it's all happening. Yeah, I think they like having like a theatre quite near them, and they can just come and see all the shows. And
it's different to normal theatres as well, because it's student actors instead of professionals, so it's a different theatre experience than if you go to somewhere in the West End.
We tend to socialise at the pub down the road, Winston Churchill.
Oh yeah, the karaoke.
And yeah, karaoke there, and they accept us very nicely, very graciously.
I think they like it because we bring in quite an atmosphere, because all of us tend to go and this one karaoke, because it happens only every fortnight. So we all really want to get up there, and we all really have a go. We just get up on there and sing as loud as we like.
I work in Loughton in the High Street in a pub, and it's totally different. Like, it's a totally different atmosphere to, like, say, the bar here after college. in like the pub, and everything's quite reserved. And then if you get a group coming in from East 15, you know they're from East 15 because they're just dancing and singing. And
A bit quiet for the artiste, please.
Welcome to our humble place, we consent we're setting a tone. We're filling a space, making a home. She becomes a happy wife. Painting a room. What it needs is people, men and women talking, men and women thinking out loud. How far to go?
When East 15ers are in Debden or out in the area, you can definitely spot them out and pick them out from the crowds because there's a different sort of look to them.
An energy about them.
Yeah, we're distinctive out there.
People know who we are.
Yeah.
It's like even in the summer holidays, you can tell, like if you're walking around Loughton, you've come back a week or two earlier, you can tell just by looking down the high road who's actually going to be going to East 15.
It's just like things people wear. You can spot them out.
The way they are, I think just the way as well.
That sort of confidence.
There's a certain feel to Loughton and Debden when you go about the people that are actually there, and we're very different to be juxtaposed with them, so...
You can tell by the way, like my cuffs are down to my elbows of this purple thing. It's quite gothic.
I've got a brightly coloured rainbow jumper.
And
who
long,
looks like
blonde
Jesus.
curly hair. Simone, who's
black,
donning a fire sort of hat.
Medusa-like.
Medusa-like, almost. And Daniel, who just...
I look quite normal, actually.
Yes.
We do have the normal ones here as well.
Sharpening knives, forging ahead, taking our lives, making a home, making a home, making a home.
When we go into Debden in character, we stay in, our tutors encourage us to stay in. That's the method of the school. So we'll go in as Romany gypsies from the Second World War and buy our vegetables with the character voices like this. Can I have half a pound of carrots, please?
But say you're doing an Irish play, you'll go in with the Irish accent and you'll be, doing your thing. Or doing Cockney,
But they respond very well to it.
Unless you're like wearing sort of costume that looks quite theatrical. But if you're just walking normal, I don't think they would suspect. But when they know that you're an East 15 and
they're very good.
Yeah, they just take
do.
it.
They
respond as well in a way. They're not like, oh, you're doing that silly voice for, or why are you wearing them boots, or nothing like that. They just play along with it.
They play along with it.
It's like they're in it with us.
Yeah, they look
good.
like
Unsaid game.
They've helped us a lot. Like we did a community project. It's part of the first year course. All first years will go out into Debden and study the people in the laundrette, the people in the market. They'll possibly work for a day or two. We did. I worked on the market.
They give their time
store.
up for.
They do give their time up, and they're very
enthusiastic, and they just want to give, and that's what's so good. It helps you out a lot.
Yeah,
definitely is an East 15 bubble that we all live in.
Yeah. Definitely.
And it doesn't end from leaving the ground. You have to go home and start talking about everything you've done, and all the rest.
You just
of
put
it.
your normal head back on again when you go out, sort of thing. You come in with the actor head and then go out normally, and then try and blend in with the rest of the world, even though you are quite different. But we are part of the community as well.
Yeah.
Let's try this again. Teddy Daddy, Teddy
Daddy,
Daddy,
Teddy
Teddy
Daddy,
Daddy,
Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy, Teddy Daddy.
Right.
We're actually quite lucky because on the grounds there's like a pond, and it's got weeping willows that actually hit the pond, which is actually quite pretty, and it's quite useful in like the for certain plays and things that we do. It's very green, and like we get ducks in the summer, and so it all helps. And it's like sometimes the outside world does seem like quite far away because you don't really hear an awful lot of traffic or anything. Yeah. It's that when a truck does come up or whatever, it is very much does draw your attention because you're not used to it. It's very natural sort of surrounding. The big house, the fact that there's a big house, the fact that there's a lot of trees, and it's like a very nature sort of dominant area.
There's a lot of energy and a lot of flamboyance and a lot of egos. You know, the actors kind of a huge concentration of actors in one small place tends to be quite overwhelming. But it's fun. And there's a lot of energy and buzz. And in terms of the buildings, there's always new ones creeping up around here, and it kind of feels like we're becoming smaller and smaller as the buildings overtake this kind of nature-like paradise that we've got. And but yeah, it's great. I really do feel like it's kind of our own little kingdom, and we're kind of gated and fenced in to this world that we have of our own. And like Karina was saying, when a truck does come in, and it's kind of like an outsider, you know, it's.
Mind you, whenever we're doing some improvisations, we do sometimes wander down to Debden
Yeah,
and see
yeah.
what effects it does have in the normal people.
Yes. Or we include that truck that creeps in an improvisation. You know, like we're doing a strike, a miners' strike per se, and we're pretending to be, you know, picketing protesters, and the truck comes in, and we kind of attack the truck nearly, not really, but you know, kind of involve them in our protest and our improvisations. So it's really cool.
It's very interesting when you get the builders in and people are dressed up in Victorian clothes or something like that. It's just nice to see their faces as we're going up and down the paths, you know.
2, 3, 4. 3 sunny rooms facing the street.
Only last year they were painted.
1 room to sit, 1 room to eat.
Want to get better acquainted.
When I was living in Loughton in my first couple of years of this school and going to school here, it felt like such a small, claustrophobic sort of world, and you know that had its perks as well as its disadvantages. And I think that you know, going to school here 8 hours a day to 10 hours a day, and then living in Loughton, and it's like you're never kind of leaving this small little world, and it can be a bit claustrophobic, and especially when all the students live in the area, or most all the students live in the area.
You don't get much chance to make friends outside the school because we're here so much that you tend to, if you have got an evening off, if you're not, I mean, because when we finish rehearsing a play, we're probably watching another year do a play, or we're going across London, or we're rehearsing lines for the next day. So, I mean, our days, although they might only be 10 hours at school, they're sort of 12, 14-hour days. So the thing is, if you do get a night off, you get it with the rest of your group that you're working at the time. And so you just tend to go together, and you do yap to locals in pubs and things, but you haven't got time to build up proper relationships and make proper friendships with very many of them.
Who would believe how contented 2 could be in their 3 sunny rooms?
I think probably the environment is one of the most important things, actually, that we have here, and where we differ from the majority of other drama schools, because we spend a lot of time working outside on projects when we're doing history projects and things like living history projects, which is very good because the actors have to... everything's for real, you know. If you're going to dig a hole, you're really going to dig a hole. If you're going to make a fire, you're really going to make one, which is very important, actually, nowadays, because so much of the work comes from television and films, which it's not artificially in the theatre, because unfortunately we've got fewer and fewer theatres nowadays. The school started by a lady called Margaret Walker in 61 in the East End in a boys' club. And we didn't move out here until 1963, and there was only the old Georgian house, Hatfields, and then the theatre, which is a medieval tithe barn. We moved that from Ditchling and Sussex because obviously we needed a theatre, and it actually was cheaper to move this barn up and re-erect it. It's a wonderful training theatre. It really is lovely. Seats about 120. So, I mean, yes, the buildings and the land are very important to us. They've grown a lot, actually, recently since our alliance with the university.
Are you very passionate about this place?
There's something about the young actor. They're so greedy, they want so much. It's just so exciting. And so much of theatre out there is so deadly dull and boring, to be perfectly honest. And you get opportunities to do plays in a place like this with enormous casts that you can't do out there because people can't afford to do it, you know. So it's very exciting.
What is the relationship between East 15 and what you do here, what the people here, and Debden as a whole?
I think they think we're very strange. We find it quite difficult, actually. If we did a more popular, in quotes, a series of plays during an academic year, I think the people of Debden would come in and see much more. But obviously we train predominantly through the classical repertoire, and so we have to, for the actors' training, do a lot of things like Chekhov and Shakespeare, etc., and Ibsen. And when we do Christmas shows, musicals, old-time music hall, which we do during the year always, because it's important for the actors to have that experience, we get packed houses. But we can't, because we're not a repertory system, we can't necessarily every week put on something that they're going to find attractive. So I think that's great sadness, because it does put up a bit of a wall between us and the community. And I know they say sometimes, oh, it's those funny ones up the road, because they see actors wandering around in character down in the Broadway and things, and they don't know whether they're talking to a real person or, a make-up one.